Mark, would you like to say a few words?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I'm on the edge of my seat, actually,
I
for the
know.
big announcement. But thank you for your hospitality and above all, for your leadership. You're a transformational president. You're a transformational president.
There have been very few times in Canada's political history that a candidate or a prime minister has so shamelessly and brazenly lied without any restraint whatsoever. From the start, Mark Carney's entire political persona and campaign have been based entirely on fabrications, deceit, and misrepresentation of the facts. To make it worse, he has lied so shamelessly and with such ease that we can't help but wonder if he's even conscious of his own lies.
I'm complying with the rules in advance. Point final.
Are you saying you are not open to any conflict of interest?
Yes.
Trump spent most of his life in the private sector. There's no possible conflict of interest in your assets. It's very difficult to believe.
Look inside yourself, Rosemary. I mean, you start from a prior of conflict and ill will.
When his campaign began, Carney tried to tell Canadians that he and he alone helped Canada stave off a recession. During his time as Canada's central banker, this prompted Stephen Harper to come forward and correct the record. Later, an old video of Carney telling a committee that Canada was in a recession began to surface.
The global downturn and the declining demand for our exports will make this a very difficult year for Canada's economy. We are now in recession, with GDP projected to fall by 1.2% this year. There's been exceptions to that. With the financial crisis, 2008-9, when I was governor, we avoided a recession.
Sadly, that was only the beginning of Carney's campaign of fraud and lies. Immediately after becoming the prime minister, without a general election, Carney sat down in front of the press and signed a fake executive order to cancel the carbon tax. However, all he merely did was set the carbon tax rate to 0. Without a vote in Parliament, the carbon tax cannot be repealed, meaning that it can be brought back and increased whenever Carney chooses. This fake executive order to cancel the carbon tax wouldn't be his last stunt. A month later, Carney would return for another theatrical signing to order a tax cut for the middle class. Of course, what he actually signed was a note of instruction, nothing more than a symbolic promise to cut taxes by July 1st when Parliament convenes. As expected, like clapping seals and sly propagandists, journalists, and media went along with Mark Carney's idiotic play. None of them questioned it or criticized it. They just went along with deceiving the public into thinking Mark Carney, like Donald Trump, could wield executive powers and simply delete and modify tax rates. One of Mark Carney's most egregious lies happened when he put retaliatory tariffs on the United States, but then secretly lifted a majority of them mid-campaign, knowing that his decision would be published a week after Election Day. What is most concerning about Carney's removal of tariffs is the $20 billion in revenue Canada was set to make, and whether it has been factored into the country's overall budget, which we now won't get this year. Isn't it funny how we exchanged the budget will balance itself for, oops, sorry, there won't be a budget this year? After the election, Mark Carney's lying and deception would come into plain sight with his new cabinet picks. After spending weeks campaigning on pipelines and on building Canada's energy infrastructure, Carney kept the same radical cabinet picks and doubled down on his refusal to repeal laws that make building pipelines almost impossible. Like all his other promises, his commitments to expand Canada's natural resource and energy sectors was nothing more than smoke and mirrors.
Would your government fast-track pipelines and mining projects while also following the Supreme Court decision that requires consent of Indigenous communities?
Well, I think the first thing, and this goes back a bit to where we started, which is recognizing that we are in a crisis. We need to act with maximum force.
On foreign policy, Mark Carney promised an elbows-up approach to dealing with Americans and Donald Trump. But when it came time to act after the election, he met Trump, praised him, dropped all the retaliatory tariffs, and let Trump speak for 13 minutes, insulting his colleagues like Chrystia Freeland. While Trump rambled, Carney sat there like a child. He made silly faces, looked like he wanted to interject, but then timidly shied away from attempting to get a word in. All he managed to do was say that Canada would never be for sale, to which Trump basically said, "We'll see about that."
We don't really want cars from Canada. And we put tariffs on cars from Canada, and at a certain point, it won't make economic sense for Canada to build those cars. And we don't want steel from Canada because we're making our own steel, and we're having massive steel plants being built right now as we speak. We really don't want Canadian steel, and we don't want Canadian aluminum and various other things because we want to be able to do it ourselves. And we, because of, past thinking of people, we have a tremendous deficit with Canada. In other words, they have a surplus with us. And there's no reason for us to be subsidizing Canada. Canada's a place that will have to be able to take care of itself economically. But no, I mean, it's hard to justify subsidizing Canada to the tune of maybe $200 billion a year. We protect Canada militarily. It's not fair. But why are we subsidizing Canada $200 billion a year, or whatever the number might be? It's a very substantial number.
One of the worst things of all is Mark Carney's refusal to disclose his assets and conflicts of interest. To this day, as you watch this, he has not disclosed his holdings, his investments, or his private business deals. He has mingled with Chinese billionaires and government officials while securing deals with powerful people around the world through his companies. When asked about these things, Carney swears and promises that he is following all the rules and has cleared everything with the ethics people. Just like he swore to protect Canada from Trump, build pipelines, and put his elbows up. Just like how he signed 2 fake executive orders at a table in front of cameras in an effort to fool Canadian voters. Mark Carney is a fraud. There's no other way to put it. He has lied, deceived, and put on elaborate acts of theater to trick Canadians into supporting 4 more years of the same Liberal government. He says one thing to people in Quebec while telling people in the West something entirely different. He covers up his business deals and makes big promises, all while telling us he has nothing to hide. His entire political career appears to be unfolding in an all too familiar way.